At Town Hall and filed with the office of the town clerk of the town of Morristown. I do further state that I shall enter into the minutes of this meeting a statement that such notice was furnished as particularly described by me in this public announcement. Roll call. Councilwoman Cotton.
Here.
Councilman Elms.
Present.
I am expecting Councilwoman Foster. Councilman Iannacone.
Here.
Councilwoman Mayer.
Here.
Councilman Silva.
Present.
And Council President Armington.
Here.
Council President, you have a quorum.
All right, so we'll do a moment of silence. And stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's only one item on the consent agenda this evening, and that's approval of the Verizon Corporate Classic 5K, July 16, 2020, from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. If I would ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay. Councilwoman Cotton?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
And Council President Armington.
Yes. Okay, well, now we'll open up for the public hearing. Anyone who would like to come out and voice a concern or ask a question, limit your time to 5 minutes. Please limit your comments to, any derogatory comments about targeting individual members will be deemed out of order. Yes, Mr. Burns.
Might be.
My name is Bill Byrne, and I live at 100 Franklin Street, Morristown. And I was walking up here, and by the carriage house, there's a sidewalk. It's like up like this, and it's just like a matter that somebody's gonna fall there. And also, on Franklin Place, there's a curb cut as you're coming up Franklin Place. The curbing's needs to be like asphalt there or something, because if somebody's in a wheelchair, they're gonna flip, and also the other side should be checked. Thank you.
Thank you.
Billy, what was the first location?
Franklin Street at the carriage house crossing, and I know where it's actually going along Franklin, right on crossing Ford Road.
Yes, Marge.
Margaret Brady, 181 South Street, Morristown, New Jersey. As a resident of Morris Township in 1959, I was active in many activities at my Morristown church and had married someone born and raised in Morristown. My township street had no sidewalks. The children were bused to school, and there were discussions of potential changes that would impact both towns. I was confused about the differing opinions of some of my neighbors, our family, and our old friends who lived in town or in Morris Plains. A good friend suggested that I join the League of Women Voters, where issues were studied in a nonpartisan way, enabling decisions based on facts rather than opinions alone. What an education I received as I participated in their study groups and learned how to evaluate conditions based on overall impact and need, rather than the publicity or promotions by politicians. No position was taken without each member having the opportunity to review the facts that we had studied. Somehow, we came to terms and were able to take leadership roles in such issues as the impact of new highways, the continued merger of our schools. Even when township residents voted to leave the district and there was a long legal battle leading to the courts forcing the schools to remain merged, our league remained strong, and our members sustained each other, even when on different sides of an issue. As some of us began to run for office, including me, I think we were better able to serve as elected officials due to the training which taught us to look at both sides of an issue and not simply follow party lines. All our communities are better due to the contributions of the League, their voter education, and ongoing practice of registering new voters. I'm proud to stand with my fellow League members here tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Marge. Mr. Strauss?
Good evening, everyone. Lorena Inostroza, 39 Early Street. So my comment is a little lengthy, and it's regarding traffic. So on school days, I am fortunate enough to be able to pick up my granddaughter and take her to Dunkin' Donuts in the morning before dropping her off at school. And the traffic challenges I face start when I exit my driveway. So on Early Street, we have no crossing guard at Atno and Early. There's approximately 250 kids that walk in and cross catty corner, walk out in front of cars. Traffic has to come to a screeching halt. We also have the added burden of parents dropping their kids off, and they line both sides of Early Street. Added with the buses coming in, the 24 buses or so coming in, it's become a real traffic hazard. We have parents that utilize the two buildings on 31 and 39 as drop-off spots for their kids. They'll pull in, and which is probably safer than dropping them off in the street. So then as you travel up Early Street towards Speedwell Avenue, there's 3 designated time-restricted spots that you can't park on the Madeira side of the street in the mornings. However, they get utilized. The top of Early Street has become like a day labor pickup and drop-off, and then you have contractors that utilize the bakery there. So that adds the burden. Cars can't turn onto Speedwell Avenue. Coming up at Speedwell and Early, there is a traffic crossing guard. However, he's a little challenged because a lot of the traffic, the pedestrian traffic, is coming at the beacon that's not operational. So it's like a stop and go type of situation. Then you turn onto Flagler, and we have the unofficial hub of the traffic of the taxi companies. There's about 7 to 10 taxi cabs that park in there, added with Sherwin-Williams delivery trucks, the Domino's delivery trucks, the day laborers the contractors that are going to Sherwin-Williams, the parents dropping off at the NABE, the buses picking up at the NABE and dropping off at the NABE. So we go down Flagler to MLK, and I would really like to see do not block the box kind of thing there, because that whole street is inundated with school buses. You can't, sometimes you have to sit through 2 or 3 cycles to get on Spring Street to head up to Mars Street, like we're going towards Duncan. And then the same thing when you get to the top of Spring and Mars. And then on the way back, the challenges are that you have on Spring Street, you have a few different buses dropping off on Spring Street for the Salvation Army with little kids coming in and out. And then you have vehicles turning into Headquarters Plaza, the entrance at the top of, closer to the top of Spring Street, which blocks traffic. And then you sit through 3 or 4 cycles of the light. So in addressing those things, I would like to think, I can only imagine it's going to get worse too when that building on Water and Morris becomes occupied. And I have a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that, the town of Morristown has spent $500,000 on traffic studies, and these certain spots have to be identified in this study, and why there's not any remedies. So, however, I don't know how functional or these will be, but some suggestions I have would be to hire an additional guard at Atno and Early, repaint the striping for do not block the box at the top of Speedwell and Early because you can't see it. Mars Plains utilizes these big colorful signs for do not block the box. We have one, but it's approximately 12 feet up in the air on a pole, blended in with other signs, so it's not effective and nobody sees it, and if they do see it, they obviously don't obey it. So purchasing colorful signage. Maybe work with Headquarters Plaza to use that Spring Street entrance for exit only in the afternoon, because you have cars coming up Spring Street that want to turn left into this spot, and then it blocks traffic because people coming down don't want to stop for anybody. Maybe entertaining the thought of making Cole Street and Bishop Nazarene Way two-way streets. They're very wide, they can accommodate, I don't know why we haven't thought of that, because a lot of people like headed towards the plaza or up Spring Street can go that way instead of having to sit at the light at Flagler and Spring and back that all the way up. And maybe work with the school district, because there's two big parking lots, one on Agnew and one on Mill Street, and maybe work with them to designate that as drop-off, so we can eliminate, because of the safety hazard, it's really unsafe. Like, you got kids darting, you got parents pulling out in front of kids because they got to get to work. And maybe somehow have our PD, because I spoke to the parking authority, and they're not open early. I don't think they're open before 8 or 9. So to enforce those designated spots on Early Street and enforce that with ticketing, because people park there because there's no consequences to doing so.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Good evening, Kelly Montes of Flagler Street. First, I'd like to commend the Property Maintenance Department, specifically Philip Epps, for responding so promptly and effectively to a concern that I reported on the town website just last night about blight on the property at the Beverly Gardens Apartments. He met me at the property around noon today and assured me that he would notify Scotto Properties of their neglect of maintenance, so Mr. Epps is certainly on top of things. Next, I'd like to talk about community engagement and how a Nixle alert was employed to guarantee such involvement by residents at the very first M Station meeting. It was standing room only, but we know that's simply because of the method of delivery that was utilized to notify. Therefore, I believe the town should consider a more proactive approach to engage the residents and encourage attendance at all meetings, especially the ones concerning one of the biggest development projects this town has seen in 30 years. So I'm not suggesting that Nixle be used, rather take advantage of the resources that we are already afforded. And I believe that would be by tasking the town's contracted PR firm, Direct Development, to create meeting notices via events through the town's Facebook page. That's something that's within purview of their contract, correct? Penultimate, I implore the council to approve, to not, going forward, I don't see it on the agenda, but just FYI, to not approve the January 28 meeting minutes until they can be corrected to depict a more accurate description of my public comment and council's response thereto. What was written was lacking and inadequate, and certainly not best practice, and it's even indicative of suppression. Because in addition to reiterating accusations from November 12th and asking council to address, I also spoke about a statute that applies to the appointment by council to the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners and requested an assurance of compliance. Besides that, I inquired about why interpretation on 40A 16.3 was left off the agenda after the council president asked the clerk to include it in an email exchange, which included the town attorney, the business administrator, the town clerk, Councilman Iannacone, and myself, which council president simply stated, "I changed my mind." So I'd like the record to reflect so. And last but not least, instead of continuing to debate about what's right and what's not, after doing some research of surrounding towns, I took a pragmatic approach and wrote an attendance policy to amend and supplement Chapter 2, Article 2 of the Town Code. I hope the Town Council will be courteous enough to review and have the decency to implement such a policy requiring attendance. After all, for there to be trust, transparency is key and accountability is a must. So I have copies for the council and the public if they'd like to see. of my attendance policy.
Why don't you provide it to the clerk and they'll she'll distribute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Jessica Helterman. I live at 28 Franklin Street, right across the street from the town hall here. And I was wondering if you could let us know by some aspect when the waiting list for the housing, because I heard somewhere along the line a while back that there was some sort of lawsuit or something that was going on with the Morristown Housing Authority, not the township, but the Morristown Housing Authority, and that the waiting list was closed because there was all kinds of stuff going on. And then I heard it was going to be open at some point, and I just would like to know when that. I'd like to have some way of letting people know that when it'll be open again, because there are a lot of people like myself who I happen to be living with my parents, and it's not always easy getting along with them. And I would just, I would like to know if you could make some sort of announcement or something when the waiting list for the town housing authority is open for people to come in and get housing vouchers or whatever, rental assistance, that kind of thing. So that at some point, I could move out. But basically, I just, would like to have that happen because it's really not always easy to be living with 73-year-old parents, going to be 73 and 72. And so I just would like that. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? My name is Lindsay Holleran, LINDSAYHOLLERAN, and I live at 8 Flagler Street in Morristown. In regards to M Station, one of the benefits of being a resident in a Faulkner Act optional municipal charter law municipality is that the people have the right to initiate a referendum petition. Therefore, can the council, president, town clerk, or town attorney please explain that process to the rest of the public so the public can be made aware or we can bring this all to a public vote? I also would like to add that I feel that M Station should be put on hold pending the civil litigation with Silverman. Because I don't understand how one person can be told what they can do with their private property and another person can't. Thank you guys and have a wonderful evening. It was nice seeing you.
Any other comments for the public? No? All right, we'll close the public comment period. Council responses to public hearing comments.
I'll start. Jillian, one of the things that's been coming up, and I've been noticing it more and more, has been the painting of crosswalks throughout the town. But at a few meetings ago, Bill Byrne and I think Linda Carrington brought up the idea of maybe a different type of material on certain crosswalks, because in certain areas of town, we have dangerous crosswalks, and maybe take a look at a little bit more seriously at those alternatives. It came up last night in Morris Township with reference to Morris Avenue, but just certain key intersections. Also, I'll point out that I think the town does a much better job maintaining its crosswalks than the county. The county crosswalks are barely visible on the county roads, and maybe we should actually send something to the county pointing that out. Would be, I think, helpful. That's all I have.
Well, just in response to the residents' request to have the information disseminated in regards to when the Housing Authority opens up their, family housing list and Section 8 vouchers, perhaps the clerk can reach out to the executive director and he can send something to us, and then we can have that information, posted on the town website, and we can communicate it at our council meetings, when we know in advance when they're going to be opening up the, those waiting lists.
Sounds good. And the next M Station meeting is Thursday. It will be at the plant. At the plant, they have a site plan application before the planning board Thursday at 7 p.m. in this room. So.
And actually, traffic is a big part of that presentation.
It is a big part.
Because it was actually directed towards the planning board to do a full review of the traffic analysis associated with that project and the other projects that's built out along the Morris Spring Street corridor.
And regarding the other questions about traffic, I'll coordinate with the administration and see if we can at least get some answers for you. Okay, I think that is it. Anything else? Okay. Can you provide the meeting minutes to me about that meeting, just so I can make sure that I go through them before? I know they're not on the agenda yet, but.
The January 28th?
Yeah.
They've been adopted.
Oh, they are been adopted, okay. Too late then. Okay. Mayor's proclamations and presentations. Mayor Doherty is unfortunately not feeling well, so I have the honor of providing a proclamation for the League of Women Voters. Come on up.
Mark made one. Mark.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay. Proclamation by the town of Morristown. Whereas the League of Women Voters was founded in 1920 as a mighty political experiment by the foremothers of the suffragist movement at the National American Women's Suffrage Association. And whereas its goal was to help the 20 million women who were granted the right to vote by the 19th Amendment understand and carry out their new responsibility as voters. And whereas with the success of this effort and the tireless efforts over the last 100 years to strengthen and uphold its mission to empower voters and defend democracy, the League has become a trusted, nonpartisan grassroots organization. And whereas the League has sponsored legislation and fought in the courts to protect and strengthen voting rights and access, for free and fair elections, for civil rights for all, including children and minorities, for community health, for public education for all people, for resource protection and conservation. And whereas the League has consistently been noted for its nonpartisan election information, including sponsorship of candidate forums and information on state and local ballot issues, as well as its commitment to register, educate, and mobilize voters. And whereas the League champions government systems that are open, transparent, inclusive, and equitable. And whereas the League believes that active and engaged citizens, irrespective of gender, ethnicity, or political affiliation, are the hallmark of democracy. Now, therefore, I, Stephen Armington, on behalf of Mayor Tim Doherty, Mayor of the town of Morristown, do hereby proclaim Friday, February 14th, 2020, as the League of Women Voters Day of Action Day in the town of Morristown. We honor and congratulate the League of Women Voters on its 100th anniversary and commend the League for its significant contributions to empowering voters and making democracy work.
On behalf of the league, we just want to say thank you very much. We have had proclamations throughout all of the areas we cover, but especially here in Morristown, it means a lot to us. And we also want to thank Marge, who's a long-standing member who we did not know was going to come up and talk about many years ago. So we hope that this tradition continues. And as league members, you can see most of us are getting a little bit older. We have very much now, we are continuing to try to engage people, men and women, and get more people involved so we can continue the efforts that we have stood for so long in creating an open and fair democracy. Thank you. Marie?
No, I'm good.
Come on, Marge.
Thank you.
Right.
I guess Julian's gonna do.
Okay. Just one other thing regarding the member of the public's question about referendum and initiative. I'm aware that it is possible and it applies to some administrative elements. Can the administration provide us with either a reference or a brief explanation of that, and we can provide it to the public?
Sure, we'll let you know what it can be used for and what it cannot be used for.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Jillian, want to take away the report of mayor and town officials?
Yes, I will do that. So first off, most importantly, is Census 2020 is almost upon us. The public will start getting postcards in the mail the second week of March. And this year, unlike prior years, the census will be able to be completed in 3 ways, either online, by phone, or some people will still get the paper long-form census ballots in the mail. So once you get the postcard will tell you how to fill out the census. You'll be able to go on the census website and complete the census on behalf of your address. Or you can go by phone and complete it over the phone. Let's see. I have my little talking points. Want to make sure I don't forget anything. It is easy, it is confidential, and it is very important. Our census is not just counting people, but it also is a way for the congressional jurisdictions to be outlined. So our congressional representations depends on how many people are counted as part of the census. Our federal funding is also dependent upon census numbers. So anything related to school funding, public safety funding, roads, social benefits like Medicare, SNAP, preschool funding, kind of anything you could possibly think of that the federal government funds is dependent upon population numbers that come directly out of the census. So it's important that everyone in Morristown is counted. So we'll be continuing to do public information pushes and sending it out through social media and doing press releases and other kinds of events through the end of March. April 1st is officially Census Day, but there will be census activities going on from really the middle of March when the postcards initially go out. There'll be reminders going out, and then ultimately, if the public has not completed the census by like the middle of May, then the census takers will come and knock on people's doors. That's what everyone thinks about with the census, and they'll start to look for people for compliance with the census count. If you know someone who English is not their first language, the census can be provided in other languages. I think a good chunk of Morristown will be getting the census postcards in both English and Spanish. But there are other languages that are also available. I think the telephone, there's 30 different languages that are where you call the number and you'll get somebody that speaks Russian or Haitian Creole or Korean or, whatever other language that may be necessary. All that information is available on the census website, and we'll continue to disseminate information about the census as we go. Relatedly, we have been doing job fairs for census takers. The census takers' jobs pay over $20 an hour. It's a great part-time job, particularly for college students, because the census takers are pretty much from like middle of May through the summer. If you're interested in becoming a census taker, you can apply online at 2020census.gov/jobs. I do have flyers, and we have information on the town's website as well. And we're looking for census takers that are within our community. So please share the word, spread the word. I know that their hiring is not going as swiftly as they would like for it to, so there's plenty of jobs that are available, so please get the word out to your communities. So along that line, our only past event was actually the census job fair that was done at the Mary and Sally Residence Center on Saturday from 9 to 11. And today there was a census job fair at the Senior Center from 6 to 8. So this should be wrapping up just about now. On tomorrow, Wednesday the 26th at 7 o'clock, is the Morristown On Stage program at Mayo Arts Center. Their tickets are available via the website at www.mayoarts.org. I know that that's always a fabulous event, so I encourage everyone to attend. And then Monday, March 2nd at 6 o'clock is the Taste of Morristown at the Westin Governor Morris Hotel. See the Morristown Rotary members for tickets. And for more information, you can go to www.morristownrotary.org. And amazingly, that's all I have for events.
Thanks very much.
I'm going to jump in right there. March 6th is the Taste of Morristown. If anybody needs...
Second.
Is it the 2nd? You're right, I'm sorry. I'm looking at 6 to 9 p.m. So it's the 2nd from 6 to 9 at the Governor Morris. If anybody needs tickets, please reach out to me, send me an email. I'd be happy to get them over to you. It's a great event. I think everybody from council should go. It's great to get out, see a lot of residents, and of course, taste food from all the local restaurants. And in addition, if anybody else wants tickets for the Taste of Morristown, please reach out to me. I think you can send an email to m-elms@townofmorristown.org. Thank you.
Well, I got the calendar invite.
You did?
and then
Oh, good.
It
Then it got canceled.
Oh, well, all right, I'll put you back. I'll put you back on the list.
I didn't get an invite.
I just got a canceled invite.
It is Tawana.
All right.
I'll have to get you guys updated on it.
Any council liaison reports?
I have one. I'm reporting for Shade Tree. So the Shade Tree Commission met last Tuesday. There was a discussion regarding the emerald ash borer and a replanting plan with the residents of Ward 1. I'd like to thank Councilman Iannacone for attending. All the public ash trees have been removed, stump grinding will take place, and our town arborists will start tagging the trees in the parks that pose a hazard to residents. The dead end on Crestwood was discussed. We had a number of residents of Crestwood in attendance, and I want to thank everybody for coming out and participating. At this point, the planting is on hold until we can get a commitment from residents to water. I do want to thank Mayor Doherty and the administration for having the engineering department take measurements of the slope in that location, and thanks to Anthony DeVizio and his team for such a quick response. The slope between the end of Crestwood and Dogwood doesn't meet our land development ordinance for a pocket park. The area falls under the definition of a steep slope. People at the last meeting requested the no dumping sign be removed, but at this time, we're going to keep it in place until our DPW staff can look into putting some kind of, until the changes take place, and then we're going to ask our DPW staff to look into putting some kind of reflective material along the edge of the retaining wall to indicate that there's no through traffic. I've been told that cars drive and slam on the brakes there. The historic elm oak seedling will be planted at the Shade Tree Commission Arbor Day celebration, which is April 18th at 11 a.m. at Speedwell Park. An American sugar maple will also be planted. Invitations to the council will be sent out shortly. And there's one clarification I do want to make that has been mentioned at a number of meetings last year and this year, and that's the invasive species ordinance O-39-2019. It does not require the town to remove all invasive species plants on town-owned property. The purpose of the ordinance is to control planting, growing, maintaining, and or cultivating of invasive species. That's it.
Morristown Partnership actually met the day after our last council meeting. Jennifer did a very nice job of updating the partnership on the status of some of the tenants in Morris Plaza, which is about to be displaced with M Station. I will say that, the Morristown Partnership has been working with the tenants, and, we leave it to the tenants to work their own issues through in terms of finding a new space. Also use that opportunity to review and gather their ideas on both the marijuana and the short stay ordinance. Good input, and they're generally very happy with the direction that the town is taking in the development of both those ordinances. The only thing that I think we're going to be seeing soon that's going to be interesting will be they are taking a look at what does constitute the special improvement district. Should it be expanded? What's the financial ramifications of expanding the special improvement district within that comes under the jurisdiction of the Morristown Partnership. So they're going to be working on that through probably midsummer, and probably be seeing something in the early fall.
Well, Parking Authority met last week, and I was able to attend the meeting. It was a relatively short meeting because they ended up going into their executive session to discuss personnel matters. But just wanted to update the public and the council on everything is moving full stream with the parking garage. And just also let the public know and council members know that the Parking Authority does do counts on all lots from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. every 3 months, and then they make whatever adjustments they need accordingly. So I thought that was some beneficial information to share with you all. Thank you.
Housing Authority met last night. I was not present at the meeting, work traveling. However, I was in contact with Ms. Denman, and she's going to brief me on specific details of the meeting. As soon as I have them, I will email every member of the council. One of the things that I want to highlight from the agenda is the administrative work that they do. It was reported 334 work orders. 30 of them were emergencies, and also vacancies of all the facilities, 39, under maintenance 20, under management 19. Occupied family developments, unit count 200, occupied units 182 is 91%. On senior developments, unit count 270, occupied units 249, 93%. Total units 470, total occupied 431 for 92%. That's all.
I would like to mention that the Morristown Environmental Commission meets on the first Tuesday of the month at 7:30.
And as I said, the first of probably many planning board meetings on the M Station will be on, this Thursday, 7 p.m. at this office, this meeting. All right, so any additional calendar events? The administration does a fantastic job of.
I usually.
Let's.
All right.
Let's scratch the calendar of events.
Okay.
All right. So moving on to regular business.
Okay, there is one ordinance for introduction this evening, ordinance number O-12-2020, an ordinance of the town of Morristown in the county of Morris, state of New Jersey, establishing compensation for certain officers and employees of the town of Morristown.
I'd like to make a motion to introduce ordinance number O-12-2020.
I'll second.
Questions for?
I have a question on that one for administration. It says in the ordinance effective June 1st, 2019.
Yes.
Why is that?
This is to adjust the police chief's salary, and this is to essentially go along with the increase that was done to the SOA agreement during our last council meeting. If you remember, the SOA agreement was effective January 1st, 2018 through 2020. So there are increases that were retroactive, applied back to 2018. So we're increasing the police chief's salary commensurate with the SOA's agreement.
Second question, is he the acting police chief, or is he the police chief, and does it really matter as far as this ordinance goes?
As far as this ordinance is concerned, it's irrelevant.
Okay.
Yes, it's the same salary agreement, salary ordinance.
Any other questions? No? Call the question.
Okay. On the introduction of ordinance 12-2020, Councilwoman Cotton?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Armington?
Yes.
Ordinance O-12-2020 has been introduced properly by title and will be considered further after a public hearing to be held on March 10th. One ordinance for public hearing and adoption, and that's ordinance number O-10-2020, ordinance rescinding ordinance O-29-2015 and deleting a designated handicap parking space on Madison Street from section 7-40.2 of the Code of the Town of Morristown.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number O-10-2020.
I'll second.
At this time, I would like to open up the public hearing for any members of the public who wish to comment on ordinance O-10-2020. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any questions or comments from council?
Question.
On the adoption of ordinance O-10-2020, Councilwoman Cotton?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Armington?
Yes.
Ordinance 10-2020 is adopted. There are 7 resolutions for adoption on the agenda. Unless a member of council would like to pull one or more for separate consideration, I would
I'd
ask.
like to pull 54, 55, 56, and 57.
Any others? Okay. With that, I would ask for a motion to approve Resolution 51, 52, and 53-2020 en masse.
I'll make a motion to adopt 51, 52, 53 in mass.
I'll second.
Councilwoman Cotton?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Armington?
Yes.
Okay, we have for consideration resolution number R-54-2020, resolution authorizing execution of a developer's agreement by and between the town of Morristown and 190 South Street LLC.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Councilman?
Yes, I'd like to have this resolution actually pulled this evening and actually heard at a later meeting. I question on this developer's agreement the actual parking. I attended the Board of Adjustment meetings and the Parking Authority meetings associated with this application. I believe that the parking was actually very unclear as to where the parking for this project was actually going to be located. It was represented in the developer agreement that there's 20 spaces at the parking lot on the corner of Elm and Franklin, which we all know was never designated as the development that was going to be made available for facilitating development. It's in the middle of our commercial district. It's a small lot. A lot of the people on Elm Street, on Altamont Court, and other businesses in that area rely heavily on that parking lot since it's the only parking lot in the area. What the representation that was made, and I saw a letter that appeared today at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but quite honestly, I never saw that letter before. But I question what parking they have. Even the letter says you can get a permit. Now, the land use ordinance and our zoning ordinance actually requires that the spaces be, designated for that development, not you can go get a permit. And also, it says that you have to have that commitment for the development for a 20-year period. And my read is that that was not done here. And I hope I'm proven wrong, but I do not think it was done here. And I think we have to have some clarity before we approve this development agreement as to what is the parking arrangements for this project.
So just the resolution, I was able to get a copy of the resolution from the Board of Adjustment. That says an agreement for 10 years for the parking. It's not clear what happens after 10 years. Does the parking go away? But that was a concern of mine. I did request a letter from the Parking Authority about their understanding of the the lease agreement, and as represented by Councilman Yannicone, it is for sort of monthly permit for 20 spaces that would not be necessarily dedicated exclusively, but available for use. So I'm not sure how that.
I actually think it's not in compliance with the land use ordinance, and I don't think it's in compliance with the municipal land use plan. I will also say I was at those Board of Adjustment meetings, and it was not clearly presented to the Board of Adjustment. And I was a representative for this council as a liaison to the Parking Authority, and I think one of the areas where maybe I failed was actually getting the clarification as to what is being approved and not being approved, and what are the counts from the Parking Authority clearly when any planning board, Board of Adjustment, or this council is considering any of these applications. I still do not feel that we're getting the clarity that we deserve.
It's a couple of points. I have a conflict on this, so I have not been involved at the zoning board level or at this level. Joni drafted this developers agreement in consultation with the planners that were at the zoning board meeting. So are you saying that something wasn't done at the zoning board level, or something wasn't done in this development?
I'd like to see the clarification before we approve this developers agreement. I would like to see clarification, not from Joni, but from maybe listening to the tapes at the Board of Adjustment, because I was there at those meetings, okay? And also possibly getting clarification from the Parking Authority as to what are the arrangements for satisfying the parking requirements of this project that need to be memorialized in this developers agreement.
Okay.
Because I quite frankly don't see it.
If you can
Yeah, because the reference I used was from the condition that's listed in the resolution.
It's a condition.
So, right, and that's what's referred there.
And it was there was no discussion as to a variance as to the 20 years and/or the dedication of the spots. I don't think the intention of the land use ordinance, we're going to have Phil speak to this too. I don't think the intention of the land use ordinance or the master plan is that these projects can go out and get a permit at one of our sites. I think they're dedicated spots that are actually allocated within the public garages.
The master plan does talk significantly about the benefits of shared use parking. For example, at the lot, the proposed building down on Morris at the corner opposite Dunkin' Donuts, they have an agreement with the parking authority, but also to use part of the spaces at the bank. But I think I believe they have an agreement with the owner, and it's a long-term agreement. So I think that your concerns are valid, and I'm not quite sure how we move on if it,
Well, I think we explore it.
Right, I can talk to the planner and see if they can give some further information.
And also, if no variance was granted, and this is only a 10-year agreement, maybe what this project has to do is a similar, go look for some shared parking, look for an alternative. But I'll also point out that I don't think any of us should be happy with spaces being committed in that isolated lot in that critical section of town. That's a very small lot. A lot of people rely on that. And for us to be giving out licenses for a lot that should be open to several people, we have to be very careful with how we do this.
Again, I'm just going to speak generally
Okay.
About it. The purpose of the developers agreement, and we do this after each, when an independent board passes an application, we weren't there or you were there, and whatever conditions they put on, we like to have another hook into them for violating those conditions. So that's the purpose, and in this case, the main purpose was the affordable housing. And we want to make sure that the developer is bound by the affordable housing regulations. So I don't think this developers agreement or any developers agreement is a way to review the grant of the application that the board has already granted. But I see your point. Joni's going to talk to the planner and make sure that the resolution accurately reflects what was agreed to by the applicant, and then we will make sure that there's a revised developers agreement next time.
Second question on this, there's 4 affordable housing units?
Yes.
There's 4, and 2 of them
3.5.
are being, what's that?
So the resolution
They rounded
says
up to
3.5, they
4.
rounded up to
They
4,
rounded
okay.
up to 4, and 2
Two
were
off-site and
Off-site,
two
yeah.
on-site.
off-site?
33 Market Street.
And which building is 33 Market Street, remind me?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because again, I'll just reiterate one of the thoughts that I kind of bring out at these meetings. I am not a fan of us transferring affordable housing units out of downtown areas. People who need affordable housing, who also don't have who rely on public transportation, need to be downtown. I don't think if we shouldn't be putting them all in one place. And I think we've done a pretty good job of following that philosophy of late. But it sounds like if it's on Market Street, Jody, it's probably still downtown, right?
It is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's next to the hotel that's being.
Oh, it's in that project there? That's good.
And the property owner owns both buildings, if I remember
That's
correctly.
just as good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
You gonna amend?
All right, so if we can amend or table?
Well, you introduced.
Because we already introduced
Oh, we
it,
introduced,
so-
okay, so I'll amend my introduction to
Table.
table.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Councilman Cotton?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Table. Councilman Silva?
Yes.
And Council President Armington?
Yes.
Resolution R54-2020 is hereby tabled until the... I didn't say you?
No.
Did I say yes?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Councilwoman Mayer. Okay. It's hereby tabled to March 10th. Let's see, Resolution R55-2020, resolution authorizing award of contract to Patillo Inc. for the improved runway 5-23 safety area construction. Phase 5, additive number 1 at the Morristown Municipal Airport in the amount of $1,894,466.
I'll move it.
I'll second. Councilman?
Yes, I'm going to start voting no on the airport resolutions until, and I've talked to the mayor about this, and and I've talked to Jillian, I've talked to Vij. I actually think it's time that we take a look at our underlying arrangement with the airport. You know, back in 1981, when the town entered into this agreement, it was a totally different time. It was a totally different condition. The fact is that, you know, Stefan was reminding me the airport was in debt, but then again, the airport was a very small local airport.
It's tiny.
It was tiny airports. It was like weekend pilots that kind of used it. You know, it is now an international airport, you know, that is, you know, has very expensive landing fees. Jets are going in and out of there all day. There's commercial flights now going out of Morristown Airport. Not saying anything about the value of this airport. It's a good, valuable airport. It's good for our community. It's good for the economics of the entire region. But we are living with a lease arrangement that was negotiated under totally different times, totally different conditions. And maybe it's time that we put a group together just to take a look at what our alternatives might be with the Morristown Airport under the terms of that lease, and can terms be either renegotiated? Can we have an open discussion with the operator? What is fair? Because I don't think anybody in 1981 envisioned what this airport was going to be in 2020. So I'm just giving my reasons why I'm going to start voting no until maybe we have a meeting.
The only question I have is, administratively, there was, they only got one bid. Is that legitimate?
Well, I have somebody from the airport who can you address that? You have to come up. Can you just introduce yourself? too?
Okay, so my name's Felicia Capola, and I work at DM Airports. As far as the one,
Yeah, only address the one bid. We'll address the other
okay,
thing
the
some other
one,
time.
yeah, I believe Patillo was the only bid for this particular job. But I can answer all your, bring back all answers to any questions that you might have to Darren Large, my coworker, and then get back to you on stuff.
I think just from an administrative perspective, in terms of competitive bidding, typically, at least when we do bidding, if we only get one bid, then we have to put it back out. We're constricted by that rule.
No, not if the engineer.
That's not true.
Right, not if the cost is appropriate to what the engineer believes that the cost of
Okay.
the project should be.
I stand corrected.
Absolutely.
Is the cost representative of what you think it was supposed to be?
Well, I'm not gonna.
Okay, you're not gonna answer, okay.
But, yeah, I mean, if you have specific other questions, I can always get answers and bring them back to you. so.
She can't answer your question, but we can
Okay.
certainly get an answer.
Yeah,
I
if you
think
can
is
just
the
get
answer.
a sort of an engine, no, I guess sort of an engine, your engineer's perspective that it's in line with the cost that he thinks or she thinks that it should be, and then that would support the determination that it's a legitimate bid.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's something new every day.
Oh, we're so ready to go?
Yeah, so I guess
We're voting?
are we voting?
Well, just, maybe council can help us or administration to understand better the deal with the airport, because let's say that all of us want to vote no. What are the legal implications?
In fairness,
Yes, because it's not just standing, saying no, or following that, but being well informed on what are the legal implications according to whatever the contract is for.
My understanding is
For the lease.
lease agreement is that there's some qualitative statements that basically says the town has to play nice, something to that effect, and
Why don't I
so.
just email everyone a copy of the lease?
Okay.
Yes.
Please do.
you have shared it with me.
So, and then we can have either one-on-one conversations or in a committee form, and we can have these.
But Councilman Siller, let me be real clear. I don't want to slow down the airport, okay? And my whole purpose of this evening is I would like to get a group of us together to discuss just this point. Look at it, look at what the alternatives might be, and have a better understanding of the lease. The lease is a old-style lease. It's from 1981, understanding what our rights may be under that. We don't want to be unfair to anybody. We want to understand what our rights are, be fair, and understand, do we have any alternatives? Because quite frankly, the revenue that we get from this lease is minuscule. Okay, and it is a major operation now. And we're going to have tight budgets coming up. And, should we be looking for other sources of revenue? But I don't want to slow down the airport. I don't want to slow down the airport, and they need to do this. They get most of the work that they do there, it appears they get covered by grants.
Yes.
From
Yes.
the federal government. In this
This is
instance, they're
grant
getting the money from the grants from the federal government. We do not want to slow down the airport. What we want to do is understand what our alternatives are as a landlord, as the town.
So I guess the question for the representative from DM, if we hold off on R55 until the next meeting, is that going to create operational problems, or?
In all
I don't know
fairness,
that the
Stefan, I don't-
representative that's here can answer that
Yeah,
question.
Okay.
And I'm not asking for that. In fact, I'll change my vote
I was
to
only,
yes.
I was only referencing, sorry, I was only referencing my concern about to make sure that the single bid is
single bid.
is representative of what their engineers feel is an appropriate level. I appreciate your concerns, but that is not
No, you've
that's
got
not what we're
different
talking
issue.
about here.
What do you want to do?
Well, I was,
Well, the
no-
business administrator said that she doesn't feel like the representative can answer the question, so I guess either we vote or we table.
well, what's your pleasure? I think you have 2 noes and you may have 5 yeses. So,
Well, I mean,
I'd like to get some more information on how the bidding process works for
Okay.
the airport also.
all right, then I would,
The table, then vote no and have a problem.
Okay.
And vote yes without knowing what the process is that they use.
is that the pleasure of the council? Okay.
Yeah, it's important to know what is the.
Seems reasonable.
Then
Yeah, the process.
I'll amend my motion to table.
table?
Okay. Councilwoman Cotton?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Armington?
Yes.
Resolution R 55, 2020 is hereby tabled to March 10th. R 56, 2020, resolution authorizing payment to DM Airports Limited for administrative fees in the amount of $47,000 associated with the Improved Runway 5-23 Safety Area Phase 5 project at the Morristown Municipal Airport.
I'll move it.
Second?
So this one essentially is administrative costs that DM Airport, I believe, incurred, and I think we get the grant and then we pay them, something to that effect, right?
So,
Yes.
Go ahead.
It is from grant money, and they've incurred it. It's already been dedicated by the FAA.
Right.
A certain amount will go towards administrative fees, and that's what they're asking our permission.
Okay. So I have no problem supporting that. It's legitimate. So,
Okay.
call the question.
On the adoption of R-56-2020, Councilwoman Cotton?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilman Foster?
yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
No.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Armington?
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution number R-57-2020, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Morristown authorizing the Planning Board of the Town of Morristown to conduct a preliminary investigation to determine whether a certain area within the municipality is a condemnation area in need of redevelopment.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Councilman?
You know, this is an important resolution, so I just didn't want it approved. So I thought maybe you guys can give some background and what the process would be.
The first question is, how long has it been basically vacant, abandoned?
That I know of, at least a decade, and likely longer. This property has been vacant for a very long time. The property owner has been approached by several potential tenants. I think I've heard Anthropology at one point had wanted to locate there. The property owner has not made any efforts, to our knowledge, to rehab or redevelop the property or reuse it, has not come to the town with any plans to do anything with the property, and unfortunately, it has continued to fall into disrepair. So, given the importance of that location, it's an old, beautiful building, in my personal opinion, and really should not stay that way for much longer. So, hence the reason why we've put this resolution before you for your consideration.
And as far as the process is concerned, now Dean can jump in to provide more specifics. But once this is approved, it goes to the planning board. The planning board does a study on the history of the property, the different criterias for redevelopment, and whether that property qualifies as a blight area. And if it deems it to be a blight area, an area in need of redevelopment, then we'll come back to the council for a designation. So that's the process. So the work is going to be done at the planning board level.
And there's public notice requirements and all of that, so.
And then, once the property is actually declared blighted by this council, then what's the next step and what's the intention?
After that, then a redevelopment plan gets developed, and ultimately, the redevelopment process takes place. Dean, you can talk a little bit more about the condemnation process if it's.
Well,
Unless you want to talk about it.
no, I mean, I think it's just the regular redevelopment process is we come up with a plan, and our planners, we're not working with a developer at that point. We're going to come up with our own plan, and if the property owner is okay with our plan, great. If the property owner is not okay with the plan, then we evaluate all options, including condemnation.
Gotcha.
And the investigation is with
Correct.
the possibility of condemnation.
Yes.
And so that
As an
provides,
option.
that provides the incentive ideally to the owner, once it's complete, to either work with the town or to redevelop it, or to renovate it themselves to risk, so, all right.
So I have a question. I think I know the answer, but by making this move, is this working to the detriment or to the benefit of the property owner?
Well, that's a tough question. We're doing it because it's beneficial to the town. It's beneficial to the town because, A, it's either going to nudge the property owner to do something with the property that might be blight, or two, we get something from the property owner that says, I'm not doing anything. But the first step is for the planning board to do its study and find out under what criteria this property falls under and whether it can be deemed to be a blight property. And then we can start from there. But that's where we need to start.
Right.
So I can answer whether it's beneficial or detrimental to the property owner. It's
Okay.
definitely beneficial to the town of Morristown.
Okay. It's just what's concerning to me is, if you have a property owner who happens to be a very wealthy individual, and they have the means to renovate the building, rehab it, do whatever, and they're just choosing not to because they don't care. I don't want to create a situation where it becomes a financial windfall for him in some way, shape, or form when he has just neglected it, like you said, for the last 8, 10, 12 years. So I think we have to be careful about creating some circumstance where he's rewarded for being a bad property owner.
I think the opportunity is there, if the town determines that it is blighted, and if the town determines that they have to take it through eminent domain, then the property is assessed at the highest.
Appraised or something.
Appraised at the highest and best use, and the owner does the same thing, and then we fight about it in the middle. Is that going to be higher than the assessed value? It probably would be at the highest and best use. But the alternative is, the car dealership, movie rental place on Speedwell Avenue that was sitting there for 15, 20 years, just vacant. And is it the town's is it in the town's best interest to eliminate blight that, when, even if the property owner is wealthy but doesn't want to do anything with it.
Right.
And I think it is a beautiful building. I will encourage the planning department to investigate the rehab of it, because I think that's, rehab renovation in place. I think that would be the best result of this effort. But, that's after several steps, so.
Okay, all right.
Call the question.
On the adoption of Resolution R-57-2020, Councilwoman Cotton?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman Anacone?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Armington?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, unfinished business, board vacancies. I know we have, you sent out, there was one applicant for the rent leveling board.
That's correct.
There are 5 positions open. What's the, can you refresh my memory? There was,
It's actually, one does have to be a landlord, I believe. Yeah, I think so. One has to be a landlord, one has to be a tenant. and then the other people have to be
That's right.
independent. And I believe we have a tenant already. Bradley's on, I think. And you have a new application that came in. We need a landlord. Well, we should make some phone calls, get a good landlord.
Okay, so we'll continue to extend that.
Okay.
Sufficiency of existing pay-to-play regulations, the committee met last week. We talked about public perceptions of conflict of interests. We talked about the potential influence of campaign contributions from developers, and the public perception of gifts and campaign contributions on the council's decision-making processes. We talked about the whether or not there was a perception of that, you know, from gifts and campaign contributions from liquor license establishments on ABC decisions, and we also talked about whether or not there was an issue with oversight of town professionals that potentially had conflicts with developers. The committee's working to put down our thoughts and create legislation, and then we'll share it with the rest of the council and the administration and see where we want to take it. So,
I have a question on that.
Yes.
What the group is doing is reviewing the existing.
So we reviewed the existing legislation, which was essentially it's public disclosure by all the annual contractors. Every year, we hire dozens of law firms and other contractors, and every one of those applications includes a public disclosure statement that those of contributions by those entities and all their family members, and about contributions to council members or the mayor, or the county Democratic Committee or the county Republican Committee, and I think those, at least from the committee's perspective, that ordinance works very well. It is a administrative effort that the administration does well, but it provides the oversight that we need, so that I believe we can all say that each one of those professionals does not have a conflict of interest, and their gifts or campaign contributions to the town do not in any way unduly influence the decision-making process. I think from that point, we looked at is there a need to apply that to redevelopment, given the fact that Morristown does a significant amount of redevelopment work, and the decisions that we make on granting tax appeals, tax abatements, or zoning allowances, which differ from the broader zoning ordinance, or identifying developers as the designated redevelopment entity when there doesn't appear to be a competitive bidding process. Those are all significant decisions by the council, with oversight and negotiations by the administration, and I believe that we have conducted those decisions and those processes professionally over the last 10 years. As long as I've been here, I think the point is there a need to manage public perceptions? From a purely local government ethics law perspective, it's a process of is there monetary exchange of funds? However, from a planning ethics perspective, and I believe there are other professionals, is there a perception of a conflict of interest? And we talk about the perceptions of conflict of interest. And at the planning board, we always have that conversation, and we basically, the attorneys make the determination if you have a conflict, and then you sit out, and that's why we have alternates. But so I think those are the discussions we're having at the committee level, and once we nail down some concrete ideas, we'll share them with the rest of the council and the administration, and see where we want to take it. I was interesting. I was searching through the state databases of towns that have conflict of interest ordinances, and I saw the Morristown passed in 1998 an ordinance which basically requires developers that are filing site plan applications seeking variances need to provide public disclosure statements, and I confirmed with the zoning officer that actually happens. So I think there's a lot that has been done, and a lot of things that happen in the background. So I think the committee's taking a good look at these things. So.
What's actually interesting is that the original ordinance was actually a referendum.
Yeah.
You may want to talk about that.
Yeah. So the original ordinance, which was passed in 2008, was a public referendum that I worked on with Linda Carrington and some others. I think Marge was part of that, essentially, I believe the public referendum process can be attributed to or applied to administrative rules, though I will defer to the administration to provide that clarification. It does not apply to a redevelopment pay-to-play, but it does apply to in this annual contracts pay-to-play rules. We were able to do that. And so a petition is put together, a committee is created, and I believe that you have to get 5% or 10% of the voting, the number of people who voted in the previous election, and then with that it goes onto the ballot for public vote. So anyway. With that, I have nothing further. Motion to adjourn? Anything else?
Okay. Second.
All right. Oh, sorry.
I guess everyone's in favor.
Yeah.
We are. All right.
Well, let's talk about, were we going to talk about this giving money to the Allison Deep thing? She wanted money for pizza party or something?
That was just correspondence, right?
I didn't think she was asking for money. I thought she was just advertising.
Well, then we can maybe adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Yeah. We'll take it to the side.
Okay.
Where are my keys?